Okay, welcome to the Squatch playthrough video. Let's get right to it. To begin the game, you're going to place your game pieces on the center yellow circle. Doesn't matter which spot because you can choose your path on the first move. Then we'll get the cards nice and shuffled up here. And once you have the cards shuffled up, you'll deal out 3 cards to each player. If you are dealt a supply card, you get to keep it, as you can see the top right player doing here with a couple of cards. However, once gameplay begins, when you draw a supply card, you will play it, and the first player to grab the corresponding totem will win that supply card.
That's a supply card.
Oh, you got a wild child already?
I don't move yet?
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Show you first.
Starts.
The player voted with the most hair will begin play. In this case, it's me. So I started the game here with a move 1, moved my piece out, and drew to show the end of my turn. Always need to replenish to have 3 cards in your hand.
No, you're not.
So Emily played a pickpocket here and stole Christie's wild child supply card. She takes it and adds it to her supplies, which can be used towards any location. Christy plays a move 1 and then she draws a calamity card. The calamity card will have the instructions on it. This one is the swimming hole calamity, which means Squatch goes to the swimming hole, and then every player on the path to the swimming hole will have a penalty, such as lose a supply card or move back 1 space. The calamity card will tell you what you need to do. In this case, there's nobody on that path, so we don't need to worry about it. And Christy drew another wild child supply card, which when you draw a wild child, you don't grab totems for it. Whoever draws the wild child gets it. She then drew another calamity card, which will move Squatch over to the abandoned cabin.
Is that what that one is?
This particular calamity card says all players on the path should lose their next turn, so Emily will miss her next turn to play. So here Christy drew a supply card to the abandoned cabin, so the first person to grab that totem wins the card. In this case I drew the totem, so I get the card. And she draws another abandoned cabin supply. I again got the totem, so I get the supply.
Actually, we'll
I'm going to play a hoax card here, which enables the player to rotate the game board to whatever position they would like to. I then played a move 1, getting closer to Squatchy in the abandoned cabin.
Okay, now pick up your card.
As you can see here, I drew a supply card to the swimming hole, so again, the first person to grab the totem wins that. In this case, Christy won the supply card. Another swimming hole supply, and it looks like Emily won it this time. And now a cave supply. Emily wins again.
Mom, you lose a supply card for grabbing it when it's done.
And the forest, which Emily again won.
Why am I drawing all the supply cards? Okay, now pick up your cards, signifying you. Now it's Mom's turn.
Now remember, Emily was punished to lose her next turn due to the last calamity card, so it's Christy's turn now, who plays a move sidestep and chooses to sidestep over to the cave path. So you have to play a card every turn. In this case, I didn't want to use my other cards, so I played a Squatch block to Squatch block my own turn.
I'm going to sidestep over to...
Emily plays another sidestep here and decides to go to the cabin, but then changes her mind and goes over to the swimming hole.
How come she gets to do two?
She then plays a hoax card
I was right here, so I just
and
sidestepped.
rotates the game board
Out of cards.
And then I'm going to hoax.
so that she is on a path to the cabin.
Then I'm
Now Emily plays around and around, so everybody rotates their hand. Now because Emily didn't have any, Christy doesn't have any cards, so she needs to replenish. And when she does that, she's going to draw a supply card, which then we have to grab a totem for. You have to be paying attention to everything that's going on in order to win those supply cards. In this case, Emily gets it again.
Put them in your discard pile.
Now Christy will draw another supply card, this time to the forest, and I won it that time.
Oh, I'm out.
Now do I
You can see people are always replenishing cards to make sure they have 3 cards in their hand at all times.
because she's
Oh,
scribbled.
Yeah,
it's your
I was...
turn.
Yeah, I'm done
Okay,
now.
I want to pickpocket. I want to pickpocket. Let's see, where am I?
And Christy plays a pickpocket here and steals a cabin supply from Emily.
Let me go with the yellow.
Do you want the soap or the toilet paper?
Doesn't matter.
Yes.
And then I want
Squatch,
to
she's
trade
very
places
squatchy.
with Emily.
She then plays a spot swap and trades places with Emily.
And then I want to move.
And her move 1 takes her 1 spot away from the cabin, which would make her win because you can see she has 2 cabin supplies plus the wild child, and Squatch is in the cabin. So she's very close. Emily just won a swimming hole supply. I just won a forest supply. And this time on my turn, I play the migration card, which I rotated the game board. I shouldn't have done that because that's on a hoax card. Instead, I roll the die to see where Squatch is going to go.
Choose location.
And that was a choose your location. And I chose to move him to the forest.
No, I will. Yeah.
I feel so sheepish.
I then move my player 1 space out in the circle and am 1 spot away from getting to the swimming hole, which doesn't do me any good at this point because Squatch isn't there, nor do I have the supplies for it. Now Emily doesn't want to use any of her cards, so she plays the Squatch block to skip her turn as well.
I'm going to steal a supply from. Is this the swimming hole?
Then Christy plays a pickpocket and steals Emily's swimming hole supply card. The advantage of taking a specific supply card instead of the wild child is that it's not as high profile and she's less likely to get it stolen from her.
The Squatch is at the forest.
And I play another migration card here, roll the die, and this time Squatch gets moved to the cave.
And then I'm going to.
Now next I played a move 2, and if I had 3 supplies to the cave I would have won because I could have sidestepped and then gone in, but because I didn't have the supplies I chose to sidestep again to the cabin. I then played the round and round and got a fresh set of cards from Christy without having to end my turn. Emily replenishes, I win a swimming hole supply, and then Christy wins a swimming hole supply. Then Emily draws another wild child, which she gets to keep.
Alright, I am going to play the.
Oh, I still only have 2 cards.
Hoax.
Then I play a hoax card, which means you can rotate the game board to any new position.
And then I am going to freeze the Emily.
Then I place a freeze on Emily. Now that means she loses her next turn, and between now and her next turn, she's not allowed to grab a totem for a supply card or play a Squatch block or anything like that. I played another round and round, which means everybody needs to replenish their cards. This time no supplies were drawn.
No supplies then? No supplies, Mom? Out of all that?
Uh,
Well, I am going to steal Emily's identity.
My next play is an identity theft card, which means I get all her supplies and she gets all my supplies. As you can see, she had a much better setup than I did, so I stole it. I then went to play a freeze on Christy, but she had a Squatch block card and stopped me from freezing her.
1, 2, 3.
Her replenish card was a calamity card again, which moved Sasquatch to the cave. In this case, he was already there and nobody in the path, so nobody loses a turn or a card. I then played another round and round, so we rotated hands and I got 3 fresh cards to work with. Emily drew a forest supply and I got the totem first. I play a sidestep here and go from the forest to the swimming hole. So then I draw a card for the end of my turn, and Emily turns her freeze card normal, so we know that she is no longer frozen. Then Christy will play a spot swap here, and she trades places with me. So she's right next to the swimming hole.
I'm going to migrate the Sasquatch.
Then I play another migration card, roll the die, and he goes to the swimming hole.
And then
yeah, that's definitely too big a dice. Me?
Emily plays a pickpocket and steals my wild child, and then so ruthlessly plays another pickpocket and steals my other wild child. She's heartless.
look at where Mom
I put up a fight because Christy was one space away from winning the game.
Yeah, mostly I just wanted to steal my supplies back.
Then, adding insult to injury, Emily draws a swimming hole card, and Christy snags the totem right out of my hand.
Whoa, you like...
She tries to be nice and give me the supply card, but she ended up with the totem, so she ends up with the card.
You got the totem. You got the totem.
I know, but I pulled it out of your hand.
You don't care because you're going to win right now anyway.
Are you done? Yeah, I'm gonna win.
Emily's turn is over, and Christy played a move 1 card, although you can't really see it, just slightly below the screen there. But she played the move 1, got into the swimming hole with Squatch there and her 3 swimming hole supplies, and wins the game.